there is what we speak about as a hierarchy of needs. Now, it is not 100%, meaning there are absolutely cases and stories of impoverished sages, own nothing, and are in bliss. But we're going to call them the exception rather than the rule. For most people, in order to be able to dedicate ourselves to a practice searching for permanent happiness, I have to at least have my basic needs met. I need to know where my next meal is going to come from. I need to know that there's a roof over my head tonight. So we need basic needs, okay? So before we can talk about permanent happiness, because a house does not bring me permanent happiness, traveling doesn't bring me permanent happiness, but these are important aspects on the foundation. A house because it's security, and traveling. Let's go deep for just a moment. What is it that gives us so much happiness about travel? Scenery is beautiful, but you could watch it online. New experiences, Connection. What about freedom? Travel gives us. We get to decide all of that which you've just said. I get to go and have new experiences. I get to get beautiful scenery. I can do all of the things because I'm in charge. I get to decide where I'm going. That's what we love about travel. I can decide I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to sleep here, I'm going to eat here. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. The joy of travel, the joy of each individual place eventually dissipates, which is when we decide, I'm going to move on. The permanent joy is the joy of freedom. Money gives us that same joy. It's not the things I buy that give me the happiness. The reason that so many people think money gives me happiness is, and if we had them, if we were sitting here for, 3 hours instead of 45 minutes, and if I brought you up and I sort of took you through step by step, and then why would you be happy? Then why would you be happy? Then what do you want? At the core, what we would get is that money gives you freedom. With money, you get to decide what you do, what you want, what you're going to have. So sure, you have the freedom to buy things you think are going to make you happy, then you realize they don't make you happy, then you travel, then you do something else. But money is freedom. Okay, so love, things that bring us happiness, love, freedom, connection, health, absolutely. Love brings me happiness, but I love someone, they're going to die. Money brings me happiness, but eventually it's gonna end. Travel brings me happiness, but eventually you have to stop traveling. All these things I love, they're gonna end. So how can I have permanent happiness? By experiencing those things through ways that don't end. So yes, your love of a being, that relationship will end. The love doesn't have to end. Either that person will leave you or die, or you will leave them or die. It's how every relationship ends. Either one of you leaves the other or one of you dies. But love doesn't have to end. Connection, freedom. This is the cornerstone of permanent happiness. But if it's going to be permanent, it has to be rooted in something that is permanent. The people in our lives are not permanent. The money in our bank account is not permanent. The experience I'm having in this moment is not permanent. So what can I have that's permanent? A spiritual connection. That spiritual connection, that love of God, that love of God in all of the creation, that's permanent. Even if you were loving God through someone you loved and that person died, well, the object is over, but the love isn't. If that person stands up and walks out of the room and goes to the drugstore down the street, do you feel love any less? So that love is not contingent upon their physical presence. The love is within you. Which means that if the love is love of the divine in them, not love of what they do, not love of what they say, not love of just their physical body, you have the ability to hold that forever. That connection that we experience with others, with nature, this is why scenery is so beautiful and why we like to experience it firsthand rather than just see it on our computers. When we are in nature, it connects us to the divine. As we meet new people and we learn about new people, it expands our sense of self. It expands our sense of who we are. It expands our sense of usness. Right? Us used to just be me and like 3 people in my house. Then I travel. Now my us is bigger. But ultimately, us is everything. Ultimately, self is everything. That expansion of the self, or rather that awareness of the expansiveness of the self, is the way into permanent happiness. And it gives us freedom. If you don't have freedom, you cannot be happy. If you want permanent happiness, you have to have permanent freedom. And the only way to have permanent freedom is through a spiritual practice. Because the only thing that actually binds us is our own minds. There's a beautiful teaching in the scriptures that says, Man eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. And it means the mind is the key. Only the mind. The mind is the determinant of whether you are stuck or you have moksha, ultimate freedom. So the mind is what binds us, which means that the freedom, the ultimate freedom needed for permanent happiness is freedom in your own mind. And what are those chains that bind us in our own mind? Our desires, our expectations, our egos, our grudges, our attachments, our pain, all of this stuff. That's what binds us. So the ultimate goal of a spiritual practice is freedom. And if you say to me that your ultimate goal of life is permanent happiness, I say to you, well, for that, you need freedom. That's why we embark on a spiritual path.